Hello and happy Halloween. It is almost 3 a.m., early Halloween morning. And I was listening to some podcast and made me think of something. A couple of things actually that has occurred to me. And like I've said in almost all of these videos, in these stories, I really don't think I'm the only one. I can't be the only one in the world that these kind of things have happened to. I mean, as humans, we all think that our own existence or experiences are unique. And maybe that's an ego thing, where we think that, oh, well, you know, I've had this or that happen, and I'm sure no one else have, but the whole reason for this channel is to share my experiences so others that have had the same kind of experiences can come forward and tell their story. And so they don't feel so alone, because I know I can't be the only one out there that have had strange things occur to them. Now, I don't know how to classify these two experiences I'm about to tell you. They're not ghosts, they're not spiritual encounters, although they might be. Probably are, but I don't know. I've said various times that the veil between the two worlds, the physical that we're in and the afterlife, after our physical bodies leave, where our spirits go, or their spiritual essence is in a different type of realm than where we physically live. It's hard to explain because it's hard to understand, but I do my best on here to explain things, and I'll tell you if I don't get it, but I'll explain the best I can. Back in the late, well, actually, we'll go the first. I'll tell you the first story. In 1997, 96, I met some girls that were, they had a group where anybody who wanted to lose weight could join the group, and we met once a week, and we brought a dish, you know, low-calorie dish, and $5. And we all met at somebody's apartment. And there was 4 or 5 of us in the group. Don't remember how I met them. I just don't remember. But we kept contact through emails, because that was before Facebook and all that for us. I think MySpace was around then, but that would not be how we met. It had to have been on an email group or through an email group or something. But I started going to these meetings. I took my dish, usually a salad or a pasta salad or something, and my $5. And each of us would put $5 in a kitty, in a bucket, basically. And we would weigh to see how much we weighed. And that would start the baseline. And then the next week would bring another dish and $5. It would weigh again. And whoever had lost the most weight in the past week got all the money. You know, the $20 or whatever. 15 or 25, or depending upon how many of us were there. Well, after I went to probably half a dozen or so of these meetings. We just sit around and talk and gossip and just, talk about life. Most of us were mothers. We had children. I think mine was probably the oldest of all of them, but, a lot of them had smaller kids. Well, I remember after about 6 meetings, they started talking about going to California and wanted to go meet up with some guys that were Navy SEALs that they'd been talking to through the internet. But they didn't want to meet the guys, they just wanted to go and watch them. They had their pictures and they knew the bars they went to because the guys would send them pictures and brag about where they went. But these girls gave these guys pictures, but not of themselves. They got online, did searches, found some picture they liked and said that was them. And I told them, I said, that's just mean, It's just mean. You shouldn't leave these guys on like that. But you'll never meet them. And they said, no, but we do want to go and watch them. I said, that's stalking, That ain't right. Karma's got everybody's address, and Karma's going to have yours. Well, they knew I didn't agree with that. I mean, that was just fraud and deception and, kind of stupid in my opinion. But whenever they started actually making plans to go to California, then I really started paying attention. I said, you girls are crazy. Well, they bought tickets. They started deciding what outfits they were going to wear and take. And they showed me their tickets. They had plane tickets. And I thought, holy crap, these guys are really going to go. Fast forward a couple of months, and they've been bragging about what they're going to do and how they're going to this 5-star hotel and how it's haunted. And I said, yeah, I've heard about the Hotel Del. The movie Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe was filmed there. And I think Unexplained Mysteries had done an episode or 2 there because somebody was murdered, or 2 people or whatever, a long time ago. And they said, oh yeah, it's great. You should come with us. And I said, no, that's okay. At the time, I was into chasing ghost stories and investigating. But I didn't have the kind of cash to go to California and stay in a 5-star hotel for like 5 nights. I think they were going for 6 days and 5 nights, and I didn't have the plane fare or I didn't have that kind of money. And they kept on about their trip every week, kept asking me and begging me to go with them. And I said, no, it can't happen unless I win the lottery, and since I don't play, chances are I'm not going to win it. I'm not going to go, but it's a cool thing if y'all are really going to do this, but it's not good karma for you guys to tell the Navy SEALs that you're this person that whatever picture you found online, and then you go to the bars and look for them because you know what they look like. I told them you should really introduce yourselves, and they weren't comfortable with doing that. These girls were really heavy. I was the smallest of all of them, and I was down 75 pounds less than the one right above me, and then it went up after that. So you can imagine these girls were large, and they didn't want to face up to the Navy SEALs that they'd been, talking to and flirting with and everything. It was some kind of a fantasy thing with them, and I didn't get it. I don't understand that kind of thing. So I just told them Carmen's going to have you someday. You know, Carmen's got everybody's address. Well, fast forward to less than a week before the trip that they're going to take off. They show up at my door. 3 of them do. And usually never did I have more than 2 come over to visit, but 3 of them, wow. Knocked on my door, woke me up. And I kind of had a rule back then. You don't wake me up unless it's an emergency and it's real important. You don't come in the morning, because I'm usually just got in bed. And if you do come, either bring chocolate milk or Dr. Pepper. And I won't bite your head off. I'll be able to drink that, sit there and try to wake up while I'm listening to your story. And occasionally, about once every 3 or 4 months, somebody would be brave enough to come and wake me up. And they'd always give me their token gift so I wouldn't chop their head off. So whenever I go to the door, they keep knocking. I go to the door, open the door. One hands me chocolate milk, the other hands me Dr. Pepper. And then I go, oh, this must be good. And they said, yeah, can we come in? And I said, sure. So I let them in, and we all sat there, and I tried to wake up. And they said, you know, we're going to California. And I said, yes. They said, you know, we're going to stay at the Hotel Del. I said, yeah. And they said, we want you to come. And I said, I understand that, but nothing's changed. I haven't won the lottery. And I can't just shit basically $1,000. It ain't going to happen. So I can't go. And they said, well, will this help? And they handed me an envelope. Now, I'm thinking, I've still got to be asleep. This can't be real. They really couldn't have done this. As I'm opening up the envelope, there's 2 tickets in there. Literally. One to California, arriving in San Diego, and another one coming home to DFW. And I just look at them, and I said, why? This is a lot of money. Why did you do this? I said, but I can't afford the room. And they said, because it was like $265 a night, or $269 or something a night. And they said, no, we're going to get a little pull-out bed thing. We've got 2 full-size beds. We've got a room with 2 full-size beds, and we're going to get a pull-out thing for you to sleep on so you can bunk with us. I said, okay, but why? They said, well, you're into the ghost investigation thing. And we all thought about it, and that would be a great cover for us. I said, what do you mean a cover? You're not going to meet these seals anyway. And they said, yeah, but that way nobody will know what we're doing. And I just looked at them like, none of this made sense. None of it. I mean, seriously. To spend that kind of money to just go troll or stalk seals. Yeah, the guys were probably cute. I don't remember now, but I'm sure, you know, they were young, looked nice, I'm sure. But to spend that kind of money to go troll guys or stalk them, I mean, that's like a crazy kind of sick. And then to pay for a ghost investigator to go so you can use them as an excuse made even less sense to me. And I said, so you're going to pay for me to go to the Hotel Del and investigate the murder, the ghost? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, that's some crazy shit. And they said, yeah. But if you'll go do it and show us what you do. I said, okay. All right. So I make arrangements. I get things around, and you know, don't have any cash to take with me. I have less than $100 to eat on for the week, almost the week I'm gone, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, so I went. Well, needless to say, once we got there, we realized just how different we were. They wanted to get all dolled up and go and hit the bars and the fancy restaurants during the day. And then come home in the evening, change clothes, get dolled up, and go back out and basically troll or stalk the Navy SEALs. Well, I went once with them to the fancy, to the tourist shops and restaurant, and, I wasn't impressed. Instead, I bowed out and left the restaurant because I could pretty much only afford a grilled cheese sandwich or something. I can't remember now. And went on down and hit the surf shops and talked to the guys that made surfboards. And hit a couple of those. Also went to the library and researched on microfiche, all the stories about the Hotel Del and, those kind of things, and got printouts. So I could go back to the room, and once they were gone in the evening, I could study a little bit and then go to bed. Because I wasn't going to go with them to the bars. That wasn't my thing. I didn't agree with what they were doing. So, and they understood that. I told them I wasn't going to go to the bars with them. So they'd get dolled up. They'd go to the bars at night, and I'd go to bed. Well, they'd come home, I don't know, I'd say 12:31, 2 o'clock or something, trashed. They'd come back to the room, and as soon as they'd come in, I'd get up, go in the bathroom, wash my face, put my clothes on, grab my backpack, and I'd leave. That way I could go out and do the ghost investigations and stuff, and they could sleep. And so what I did is, there's a guy named Miguel that was the, the bellhop or whatever at night, the night manager, the work front desk. He lived in Mexico, and he told me he lived in Tijuana somewhere, and or he lived in Mexico and used to be a cop in Tijuana. I can't remember, but one of the two. But he took a boat across over to the hotel every night to work. And he said he'd been there like 12 years. And he knew what locations that people had seen the spirits or seen things move or whatever. So instead of paying for a ghost tour during the day, which I didn't have that kind of money, I basically went around with him on his rounds. He had a golf cart. He'd go around delivering linens and ice and mail and newspapers, and I'd ride with him, and I would take notes. Because sometimes he would say, oh yeah, right over here around this corner, somebody saw this, or that kind of thing. So I would take notes. Well, I can't remember what time he went on his rounds, but usually, right after his rounds, I would be hungry at that point. I'd be good and awake and hungry. And I asked him, do you know anybody close by that is there a vending machine where I can get a sandwich or something? I need to eat something. And he'd get the guy from the cafeteria or the kitchen to make me a turkey sandwich with a pickle spear and a Dr. Pepper, a can of Dr. Pepper, and a glass of ice. It was like $5, and trust me, that's the cheapest thing you could buy there. And I think he was just discounting it for me, because the kitchen was closed. The guy was in there cooking, getting things ready for breakfast, preparing, but it was closed for orders. But the guy that I hung out with, he kind of was buddies with the cook, and so they hooked me up. One particular night, I remember getting my food, kind of had a little bit of a headache. So I took it to the bar, and I had not been drinking or anything. I think I just hadn't been eating a whole lot, and so my brain was kind of foggy and maybe low blood sugar or something. But I was sitting at the bar, and I remember drinking a little bit of Dr. Pepper, taking some Advil, and I started eating my sandwich. Now, where I went to go eat was an interesting place. It was inside the hotel, across from the gift shop, in a really old bar area. I kind of had to crawl up on the bar stool, and the bar was kind of tall, like almost like mid-chest, but almost to my chin. It was pretty tall. It was old wood. You know, it was a 113-year-old Victorian hotel that year, the year I was there in 97. But you can tell this bar was the original. And I was looking over the bar, and there was shelves behind it and glass up against the wall, and then glasses stacked. And then to my left was the opening going into that little bar area, and it was it was a hallway that was only lit by little tiny track lighting and tube lighting that was on the floor on either side of the walkway. And then, of course, I could see a few lights on in the gift shop or outside the gift shop. Of course, it was closed. And behind me, directly behind me, were tables. And of course, no one was there but me. And the whole time I was in there eating my sandwich, I remember I think I only saw one or two people walk down the hallway pushing housekeeping carts. And I don't think they saw me because they weren't paying attention. They weren't going to be looking into a dark bar that was closed down. But the doors were open and no lights were on. It was all real dim. And I was just sitting there at the bar eating my sandwich. I was trying to wake up when the weirdest thing happened. I don't know, I guess I glanced down to look at my sandwich or just gazed down for a second, and when I looked up over the top of the bar, directly in front of me was a man. And he had dark slacks on, a white shirt, like a collared button-down shirt. His sleeves were rolled up almost to his elbows, but kind of thick rolls. And he had a white towel slung over his arm, his left arm. And he was putting glasses up on the shelf, like above his head or about head level, which was a lot higher than me. It almost looked like he was standing up on, because I was up kind of high sitting on the bar stool, and he was a lot taller, so I don't know if behind the bar was built up higher or what. I don't know, but that's the way it appeared. Either that or the guy was well over 6 foot, maybe 7. I mean, close to 7 foot. I mean, he had to have been, if behind the bar wasn't built up taller, if it wasn't on a platform, then he was a really tall man. But I saw him, and I knew he didn't walk by me, and I knew he didn't walk back there, because it had only been a second since I looked down at maybe my sandwich or something and then looked back up. It had to have only been a couple of seconds the most, that since I had looked that direction, there was no one there. And all of a sudden, he's there, and he's like wiping glasses and hanging them or stacking them. And I'm thinking, you know, my mouth, I'm sure, falls open. And then I hear behind me like the tables behind me. I hear like people mumbling and talking and some guy laughing a little bit, and it sounds like someone is like has a ceramic or glass coffee mug and he's stirring it because you can hear the metal, the spoon hitting the sides of the cup. And then you can hear people mumbling and talking, but I couldn't make out anything what they were saying. But I smelled cigar and pipe smoke. I mean, distinct smells. And I felt movement and activity behind me at the tables. Now, this is an empty bar. It's probably 2:30 in the morning. And it's or 2:45 or something. It's an empty bar. I'm the only one in it. But there's people there all of a sudden now while I'm eating my sandwich. And no, I had not been drinking. I had not been smoking. I had not taken anything. And I wasn't still sleeping. I was awake. I'm sitting there. And this is going, it was empty and quiet. And then all of a sudden, boom, someone flipped a switch. There's men behind me talking. And I can tell they're men. I'm not hearing women voices, just men. And then this bartender. And I'm like just sitting here looking forward going, what in the Sam hell? And then I get something out of the corner of my eye, move, and I turn to look to my right. And at the end of the bar is in front of me, and it goes like, one end of it's like heading towards the walkway outside, which is across from the gift shop. The bar's in front of me, it goes to my right, maybe 4 or 5 feet, and then it curves up. There's a guy sitting over there around the curb. And I guess I saw him move or something out of the corner of my eye. And that's what made me realize he was there. Because I was like frozen, looking at this guy putting up glasses, thinking, what in the hell? What? But I see this movement out of the corner of my eye, so I'm turning and I look at him. He looks straight at me. I just got goosebumps telling that. Because I remember how bizarre. Jeez, oh whiz. I swear my blood turned cold. He looked straight into my eyes. So he acknowledged me. I mean, at first I kind of thought, okay, well, I don't know what the hell this is, but somehow I've seen into the past, because it's obviously the feeling I got from everything is it was the past. Like from the 50s or 40s or something. And I somehow just ended up there for a few seconds. But you don't expect when something like that happens for someone in that realm to acknowledge you. This guy looked at me straight in the eyes. I tell you, I've seen and experienced some weird shit in my life. That was probably the weirdest. My son, at the time, was probably in his early teens, maybe. Yeah, early teens. Now he's in his mid to late 30s, and he just made a trip to San Diego this last summer. And I so hoped he would go to the Hotel Del. I told him several times about my experience. I described everything to him just like I did you. Told him to sit at the bar, close his eyes, and just sit there and see if he senses or feels anything. And then open your eyes and see if you see anything. But he didn't go. I really wished he had of. And my goal is, before I die, I want to go back. And I want to go back to that bar. I want to sit there when everything is dead and quiet and see if I can go back to that time again and see if that guy pops up. And if I can somehow control my freak out, I would like to ask him, what year is it? And see if he has a response. I don't know. Now, it's easier said than done. It's kind of like, you never know till you're in that situation if you can get the wherewithal together enough to ask a question of something like that. But that would be my goal. Ask him what year it is and see if we can communicate. But he looked at me. So I somehow crossed into his realm enough for him to acknowledge me. Why? I have no idea. And that's not the first, well, that's not the last time. That was my first, to my knowledge, that I've ever interacted with someone, even if though it was just a glance. He looked straight into my eyes, so I know he saw me. That's what I don't understand what happened, and I sure don't understand how that could happen either. I mean, it's kind of easy to say maybe that was my imagination, that I thought I heard the men behind me, and I in my mind's eye somehow I imagined the bartender. But the guy coming from out of the blue, total shock, to my right at the end of the bar, and then looking straight into my eyes was not my imagination. He acknowledged me. So somehow I traveled back, because that wasn't the future. That wasn't, I could just sense from the smells, the cigar, the pipe, the whole feel of it. This was years ago, probably even years before I was born. This was the past, wasn't the future. I would love to go back there. I want to sit at that bar. I want to see if I can go back there. And I want to try to figure out when that was, what was going on. And I know they say that if you go back in time, you can't tell anybody anything that you know, because things will be changed. But, if you think about it, that might not be such a bad idea. If this was before JFK's assassination, perhaps I could warn him. If this is before Nancy Pelosi was conceived, perhaps I could warn him. I could tell him to go get some condoms and take them to her dad. Just saying. Well, happy Halloween. Stay tuned for the next time slip story. The next one happened at another hotel. And yes, I was there investigating a haunting as well. But that one was local. That one's in Texas. And that one didn't shock me. I guess because of my experience at the Hotel Del, what I saw there and experienced just kind of perplexed me, but didn't shock me. Sure as hell didn't scare me. It's odd. I don't seem to be scared of ghosts. And it's kind of funny because my dad before he died, he used to laugh at me because I would go and ghost hunting and such, and he'd say, "What, Cynthia, what would you ever do if you ever found one?" And I said, "Dad, I'd probably have to change my britches." And then I could tell you, I don't know. You don't know till you're there, until you've experienced it, how you're going to react. No matter if it's a ghost sighting, or a medical emergency or death in the family. You don't know how you're going to react until that moment occurs. You can train, and you can be as prepared as possible. But when it comes right down to it, you don't know what you're going to do until it happens. And sometimes your reflex or your actions at that time will surprise you. But it seems like the only thing I've ever been afraid of is something that's at my property. It's outside of my house, out in the side backyard area, and it comes and goes. That's the only thing I've ever been afraid of. Ghosts? Hell, I've hunted them everywhere from Texas all the way to the border, all the way to California. Never been scared. Been confused and perplexed a few times about my experiences, but never scared. And the next story I have to tell you about the time slip into the past is at the Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells, Texas. And that one's a doozy. That happened a couple of years after the Hotel Del. And again, I wasn't scared. It was kind of fun. I mean, how many people can say they danced with a ghost, right? Happy Halloween. Thanks for listening.